Hi guys, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. I'm Lucy, an Australian accordionist. I'm here to inspire you and help you learn piano accordion. I've been playing the piano accordion for 10 years, but today we're going to be talking all things busking. To busk or not to busk? That is the question. The goal of this video is to give you a realistic understanding of some of the challenges you can face as a busker and also the reasons that make it totally worth it. Alright, let's get into it. Let's start with the pros. Busking exposes your talents to the world. Busking is a really good way to get out there and show people what you can do. If you're trying to get more gigs, what better way than to actually get in the community and show people? That's how I got most of my gigs. In fact, I didn't think I was good enough to perform. I had like 5 songs under my belt and I was just kind of playing them on repeat, and people started booking me for gigs based off of that. And funny story, I actually was messaging a local restaurant owner. It was a French restaurant, and I was like, hey, I can play all these French musettes for you. Let me play your venue. They were kind of interested, but they wanted to know a little bit more about me. So they were like, can you show us videos, pictures, like, can you actually play? And I was totally unprepared. I didn't have videos or pictures or anything to show them. So the email exchange was kind of like not really going anywhere until they happened to see me busking outside of a grocery store, and they immediately booked me on the spot. They didn't even realize I was the person they'd been emailing. They just saw me and was like, do you want to play at our venue this weekend? And I was like, yes, I'm the one you've been emailing. But there you go, guys. Sometimes it just takes someone to actually see you in the flesh to realize what you can do, especially if you do something a little bit niche like accordion. There's definitely like a weird stigma around it being not a cool instrument and kind of just loud and annoying, which we know better than that, guys, don't we? It's also a good opportunity to get exposure for new students. If you've moved to a new town and you're trying to get up your student base, word of mouth is amazing, but you kind of need something to start with before you can get the word of mouth going. So if you're busking and someone strikes up a conversation with you, which you will, people will stop and talk to you, and it's great. Talk to them, and if they're interested in what you do, which is probably why they're talking to you, tell them that you offer lessons. Always have a business card on you. If there's a little kid, especially, who's just fascinated what you're doing, talk to them. Not in a creepy way. Like, just ask them what their name is and if they play music, and tell their parent that you can offer lessons. Again, always have a business card on you. And if you've got your case, which you should, because that's where you're going to put your money, put your social media handles and your website printed on a piece of paper in your case so people can find you. Busking cures performance anxiety. Guys, when I was in high school, I had terrible performance anxiety and just could not perform in front of other people. It was always the worst day of my life. I was forced into it. I had to do competitions and recitals at school, and I absolutely dreaded it. I hated every second of it, and I thought, that's it, I'm just never going to be a performer. If you would have told me that in like 10 years I would be like playing all over the country and in front of crowds of people, like, I never would have believed that. And I didn't go from 0 to 100 like that. It was busking that got me there. When you're busking, you don't have the pressure of an audience in like a quiet auditorium watching you, filming you, listening to every note that you... No, it's not like that at all. People are usually on their way to do something. They're going to walk past you. They're going to hear like 15 or 30 seconds of what you're doing, and then they're gone. And if you mess up, who cares? They weren't paying to see you. They're already forgotten about you. There's absolutely no pressure. Now, I'm not saying let busking be a reason to lower your performance standard. Obviously, you always want to strive for the best, but you don't have to go into it with that crippling anxiety. The worst thing that's going to happen is someone's just going to be like, I've had people walk past me and literally be like, ugh, and you know what? So what? They're never going to have to see me again. I'm never going to have to see them again. We're good. You don't have to like it, as long as, you know, I'm not in your backyard playing. I'm playing on the street and I'm allowed to, so just carry on. When you're busking for people that are out and about doing things, they're distracted by so much. They're not just completely all eyes focused on you. So how does it cure performance anxiety? Well, the more you perform, the more confident you're going to get. When you start, you're probably going to pick spots where there's not a lot of foot traffic, there's not a lot of people, you're a little bit nervous. When someone stops to like film you for the first time, you'll probably poop your pants and like mess up the song, which I've done many, many times. But eventually you're going to realize, oh, it's not the end of the world. Someone recorded me and I messed up a song. Now they've got a recording of me on their phone. They're just one person with a recording of me not playing the best. It's not like Simon Cowell. Like, it really doesn't matter what that person has of me on their phone. And then slowly you'll just realize that you don't really care when people pull out their phone and film you, or you won't care when like small groups of people start to gather around you. And you know what you'll do? You'll start to play more confidently. You'll start to look at people. You'll start to smile at them. You'll play louder. You'll actually want to attract those people because it will fuel your performance. You'll get to a point where if everyone's walking past you and seems to have somewhere to be and something to go to, you're going to be like, ugh, come on, like I want an audience. I want someone to really, I'm playing my favorite song right now. I want someone to enjoy it. I promise you, the anxiety will go away. And what will happen is slowly that crowd and those people is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And before you know it, you've got like a whole bunch of people watching you perform because you've gone somewhere really public where buskers are known to be, and you're doing everything and performing in a way to attract them and keep them there. Going out and exposing yourself to the thing that you fear in little micro doses until it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, that is called systematic desensitization or graduated exposure therapy. And it is proven to treat not just performance anxiety, but all kinds of anxiety. So it's a scientific thing. It's proven this will cure your performance anxiety if you keep doing it enough. Busking can earn you a higher hourly rate than a regular job. Sometimes. Busking can be quite lucrative if you're playing the right music in the right place on the right day and time. There's so many factors, but for me, every single time I've busked, whether I've done it in Australia or in the US, on my violin, or when I was a kid I used to do it on my violin or on my accordion, I have always made more per hour than any job I've ever had. Part-time, casual, full-time. I have never earned as much per hour as what I earn when I'm busking. Now, I have to say, the rates that I set myself as a performer are more than my busking rate. But I'm talking about wages that you get by the hour from an employer. I know some people who fund their travels from their busking money. They take their instrument with them, they busk for the day, and then they have money for their accommodation that night. Now, I'm not saying you're gonna go out and like absolutely definitely do this. Obviously, there's so many factors that go into that, but it's definitely something you should consider. If you're on the fence and you're like, what if I make no money? Well, I'm telling you now, I've never made more money per hour at any other job than I've made busking. Busking inspires new repertoire. People will want to interact with you. It's just the nature of being in the community and playing for people. They're going to ask you, hey, can you play this? Can you play that? And even if you don't know how to play it, don't feel bad. Just set that as a challenge for yourself and tell that person, the next time you see me busking here, I'm going to play that for you. Now, if you do that, you have to actually go and learn the song. Learn from my mistakes. It's very awkward when they actually see you again and they're like, hey, how about that song? And you're like, busking is an opportunity to rehearse new material. I often will break in a new tune by playing it busking before I actually play it at a paid gig, because you don't have the pressure and the nerves of an actual gig and like a paid audience in front of you. What you'll actually find is all the weaknesses will come out when you're busking, areas of the music that you thought you were confident with that you realize, oh, you're actually not that confident. Now you've got a little bit of the performance nerves coming in. Well, that's the perfect time to realize those things, because then you can go and practice and work on it and keep busking it until you get to a performance level that you're really happy with, and then you can add it to your repertoire for when you go out and do gigs. Busking can boost your social media following. This might not be your goal, but if it is, definitely put all your social media tags and handles and whatever you call them, print it on a piece of paper, put the symbol next to it so it's like really catchy for people walking past, and put it in your case or on a piece of cardboard paper. This is a great way for people to find you and potentially book you for a gig, because you'll find that some people don't want to interrupt you when you're playing, but they might add you on social media and then send you a message later to get you for a gig or something. It's also a really cool way to see footage of you. People might film you, then upload you on social media and tag you, and then you have more content that you can reshare, and also you can just see how you look performing and just be really proud of yourself. Busking allows you to have control over your lifestyle. How cool is it to be your boss and only work when and where you want to work? It's awesome. Now, I don't ever busk full time. I've always had another job, but it is so cool to just need some money and just go out and get it. I remember my sister used to get so like I mean, she was like happy for me, but also really jealous, because if we needed money for something, like money for Christmas presents or money to go out and do something, I'd just be like, be right back, I'm going busking for a couple hours, and I would come back with the money that I needed. But for her, she needed to actually go to work, get some overtime, do the hours, wait for the paycheck. But busking is just instant money. Busking connects you to people. I have met some of the most incredible people through busking. I have met photographers, artists, poets, other musicians. Some of my closest friends and the most important people to me just came up to me when I was busking. You'll find that creative people are attracted to other creative, ambitious people, and putting yourself out there in busking is like, it's a brave thing to do, and people really admire that, and they'll want to be your friend and get to know you. I met one of my great photographer friends in the US. I got so many photos out of him because he just wanted to be my friend and work with me, and I ended up getting lots of videos and photos from my website, which helped me get gigs when I was starting out, and also just friendships. And these people will help you branch into new musical styles that you wouldn't have considered before, and just grow as a musician and a person in general. I've even had someone draw a portrait of me busking and send it to me. Okay, let's talk about the not so pros, the cons. There's a reason not many people busk full-time. If you are a full-time busker or you know a full-time busker, let me know. What a dream to be able to just perform on your own schedule and just get paid whenever you want, wherever you want. Amazing. Busking depends on the weather. It seems that good weather never really lasts when you're a busker. And that's what makes it really hard to rely on this as a stable source of income. You just don't know if it's going to be rainy, too cold to feel your fingers, or like too hot to breathe. And also the wind. If you're playing with sheet music and it's blowing around everywhere, or your case keeps blowing shut, which used to happen to me all the time, it was so annoying. It just ruins the experience. And also people don't want to be outside in bad weather conditions, so you're not likely to get, as many tips as you want. If you rely on busking, it can be very financially stressful. It is hard to plan your life around and budget on this job that is so weather dependent. Busking requires sharing. Running into other buskers is unavoidable. It's just the nature of when you find a great busking spot, chances are someone else has found it as well or is going to find it. Buskers tend to go to the same places. Some local councils have rules around the duration of busking. For example, where I live, you can only busk in one spot for 1 hour. So if I go somewhere where someone's already busking, I know that if at least an hour from when I've seen them, they should be packing up if they're following the rules. I can't say that that is the same for everywhere around the world. I don't know what all the rules are, but some people don't care about respecting other people's spaces, which is a real shame. But I have had a busker set up right across the road from me when I was in the US. He just pulled out his saxophone. It was so much louder than my accordion, and it was embarrassing. I was in the middle of a song and he just drowned me out. And when I tried to go and talk to him, he was just like, this is my spot, you're in my spot. And he didn't even stop playing to talk to me or anything. It was quite rude. And I've also had someone in Australia just pull out their guitar and start playing next to me. And it is so awkward, but unfortunately, some people just are not courteous and they get really possessive over their places and they think it's their spot. Well, no one owns a busking spot unless there's some agreement in place. I know that in Melbourne, for example, one of the biggest, most popular busking areas, Bourke Street, has a schedule. You need to apply an audition to perform there. You can't just rock up and play. But everywhere else, you've got to check your local council's rules and regulations, but just be a nice person. In Australia, I have 4 busking spots within a 15-minute drive of where I live. And on some peak hour days, like a Saturday where it's a beautiful clear sky spring day, there will be buskers in most of those spots. And I have spent up to an hour before driving around trying to find a spot where someone hasn't already set up. It's just the nature of it, and you just have to work with it. Busking will not always be acceptable to everybody that you meet. The worst thing that can happen is someone will just tell you to stop. And that has happened to me before. My first experience was I was playing outside of a bank and they just politely closed the door because they didn't want to hear me, which is fair enough. They were trying to make deals and sell home loans and stuff, and I was not really the right vibe. Fair enough. I've also had people just flat out come out of their store and say, we don't want you playing here, you're interfering with the music inside. And that's fine. You know what I did? I didn't even have anything to pick up. It was already strapped to my chest. I just walked to the next shop. And let me tell you, they were stoked to have me outside their cafe. They offered me a coffee. They offered me food. They loved to have me there. So I promise you, for as many people that don't like what you're doing, there's going to be so many more that love it. But you just have to be prepared that when you go out, that may happen. Unfortunately, some people really only think of buskers as like a step up from panhandling or begging. I did have a woman once ask me if I needed clothes. I didn't understand what she meant until she then asked me if I needed food, and then she went into a grocery store and came out with like a bag of dried fruit and nuts, and I realized that she was from another country. I could tell from her accent, and I think she thought that I was homeless and poor and trying to survive. And I guess that just comes down to like the different cultural differences, people's understandings of buskers and what they represent and why they're doing it. It was very kind of her. I was just a little bit confused at the time. Busking costs money to start. Depending on where you live in the world, you might have to actually pay for a busking permit. I suggest that you look into the local council's rules and regulations surrounding this. In some cases, you may need to audition. In some cases, you may just need to outline what it is you're going to do. And in some cases, you have to pay for it. I have once paid $19 for a single month for a permit, and then I had to renew it and pay more money. And then I've had some towns where I've paid $20 for an entire year. Really depends where you are, but it's something to keep in mind if you're only planning to busk once a month. Are you making enough money to justify the price of the permit, or does it not really matter about the money? Are you just doing it for the joy of it? In which case, can you afford the $19? And if so, go for it. Busking can strip the joy of performing. The more you busk, the better of an idea you will get for how much you can expect to earn per hour or so. It can be tempting to use this tool to form financial goals and set personal budgets for yourself, but be mindful of how this will affect your experience of busking. Forming expectations around something that can be totally unpredictable can strip the joy from the art of what you're doing and make it less enjoyable. Alright guys, there you have it. Those are my pros and cons, my to busk or not to busk. I hope this has led you to the conclusion that you just can't wait to get out there and busk. If you're on the fence, I really hope this has helped you make up your mind to do it. My wish for you is that this year brings you many beautiful, wonderful busking experiences, and you get rid of those performance nerves, and you learn new music, and you form friendships and connections, and you do this well into the future. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.